Okay.
Hi, this is John Ryan with Team Handball News, and joining me on the line from near Dusseldorf, Germany, is Andreas Hertelt. Andreas, how you doing today?
I'm fine. It's okay. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's COVID-19 life treating you in Germany?
No, in Germany it's okay. Corona situation is very calm here, and we have no restrictions, so it's okay.
No restrictions. Just a quick side question. Do you think the German Bundesliga is going to start on time?
The handball Bundesliga will start with 2 matches in October and 2 matches, I think, in November. So they have a very light restart, and they want to see how it works, and later on they have more matches in a week.
Excellent. And the Champions League going to start in September on time, you think?
Maybe. That depends on how the other countries behave. It's very difficult to organize this situation in Germany. But what is with Spain or with Hungary or Poland? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I had to jump in with that question because it's something that's been on the top of my mind. But we're not here to talk about the German Bundesliga, although maybe we'll touch on it a little bit. We're here to talk about you and your role with USA Team Handball. You have kind of a unofficial supporting role, helping Robert Hedden. But first, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your handball background?
Yeah, I was a former first division player in different clubs. I played in Düsseldorf, in Essen, in Flensburg-Handewitt, and last contract I got in Minden, GWD Minden, GWD Min, yeah. And I spent 13 years on the high level professional handball platform, and that's my personal history. So
yeah. What position did you play?
I was a left wing player.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you also get a little bit of action with the German national team?
Yeah, I did. I had 10 elections, I think so. For me, the most important thing was to get 1 or 2 or 3, because we had a very extraordinary play on that position, Jochen Fratz. It was the Uwe Gensheimer of the 80s and 90s. So I was glad that I could play 10 matches in 2 years or so.
Well, great opportunity to wear your country's colors, and especially for handball nation like Germany, getting to do that 11 times is something I'm sure you'll never forget.
No. I won't.
Yeah. So you had a 13-year professional career playing in Germany's highest league, arguably. I don't think too many people argue best league in the world, top to bottom. But since that time, you haven't really been a fully dedicated handball person, have you?
I didn't understand what you said.
Oh, I was just saying, you had your 13-year handball career. What did you do after your career professionally?
I started in Cologne, and something very unusual, geology and geographics. And then I made a education as an investment banker with Prudential Beige in Cologne. And after that, I got a good entrance to my business I'm doing now in Minden. That was my last handball career station. And I'm now working as a general contractor. I run my own business, and I work as a general contractor for bank buildings. So we deliver one building for a fixed price.
Yeah. But you've also stayed engaged with the handball world, and you have professional licenses as well in handball?
Yeah, I finished all my licenses, A, B, and C, coaching licenses, and but it couldn't work because of lack of time, because of my business, and So I was always interested in handball, and our old European Cup winner team, Düsseldorf, we meet every 5 years. And so I had always contact in this scene with some friends of mine, like Robert Hedin, but other guys too. It's a big family. It's a big handball family also in Europe.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved helping USA Team Handball, and as best as you can, describe your role right now with USA Team Handball.
Yeah, I was very surprised when Robert Hedin gave me a call and asked me nearly 2 years ago whether I would be interested in working for the team, with the team, and for developing handball, especially the national team. And I said, okay, let's have a look at the boys, at the guys. And it was a very positive impression I got. So I said, okay, let's do it. And it always depends on guys who we're working with. So Robert Hedin is a friend of mine. He's a very engaged coach. Gerd Butzek, I had a very good contact to him, was involved after that. Stefan Bögel as a transfer agent. And so we built up a little system for this developing players on a higher level, for a higher level. And so it started 1.5 years ago.
Yeah. So you're not an official. I guess at times you've been official, like as a team leader on some of our trips, and you're supporting Robert Hedin, the men's national team head coach, and the placement of players with different European clubs. So it's kind of a management role, but it's not one that has like a specific job title and job responsibilities. Am I capturing that correct?
Yeah, it could. So you can say I'm responsible for all technical situations during a tournament. That's my main part when we are with the team. But also I have a good relationship to all players, and I try to help them when they're playing for their clubs, mostly here in Germany or in Europe. And I'm also a link to this FCH program, to Butzek and to Stefan Bögel. And we made some interesting transfers, I think, for the American handball, and we try to do so in future also.
Yeah, well, so let's dive into that a little bit. Different podcasts had come up as a topic, the Forum Club Handball, FCH, and their role with the placement of some players, American players, with some of the top clubs in Europe. And then I think we also have some players that aren't technically part of that program, but they're also being placed with clubs in Europe. Talk a little bit about your role with helping to find a good situation, a good club for American players in Europe.
A good player can only get better if he works with better players, with better teammates in a professional club with a professional coach. And that's the reason why we have some players in our team, which like Tyree or like Drew Donlin, who might be a little bit too old now because they're 25 or 26. But we try to get those very important players for the USA Team Handball, for the national team, to get them in professional European clubs. The future are the young players. These players like Drew or Tyree or also Gary Hines, they are very important for the actual national team. That will help us a lot. But we don't know what is with them in 5, 6, 7, or even in 8 years when Los Angeles, 2028 occurs. So we have to work on the short term with the national team. We have to work on the medium term, and we have to work on the long term. I would say long term is the final goal is Los Angeles 2028. that might be a climax for a lot of our actual players, but not for. So we look for American players playing in USA or in Europe, and we try to get them together. Robert made a really good job with that. He has a good network in Europe, and we have now a good team.
Yeah.
But we want to get better. And there are also like players like Luke Bolte or other players which come from USA who live there, who are young guys and who want to go the next step and to get a better education, maybe in a European club.
Well, let's just take one player as an example, and I mean, you alluded to it. Both Tyree and Drew Donlin are now playing in Europe. They're American players that learned the game in the U.S. Let's take the process for Tyree. For people that don't know, Tyree, I think he's 27 now. He played football at Alabama, and his mother was an Olympian. Also left-handed, very, very important. Right wing, left-handed player, talented. Maybe a little bit older than desired, but someone with some skills, and for our current team is a key component. I assume you and Robert Hedden looked at him as a player and said, okay, where should he go? What can we do with him? What would be the right situation? Walk me through that process.
For example, Tyree is a right-wing player. You only win matches in the back, on left back, center, and right back, and a good defense with a good goalie. So the wing players, also the pivot, not the same way, but they are very important players for the team, but they're not the decisive positions. Tyree has a fantastic physical attitude. He has a lefty, as you told, and he is very fit by his former sport, football. So it was really easy for him to do this jump, but he can get here regularly training in a professional team. He's working now in Flensburg, training and playing for the second team, but sometimes also training with the first team, which is a huge experience for him, and he's living his dream with 27. But we don't know how long he will play, maybe 5-6 years. I think he can play along because he's physically very strong. The same with Drew Donlin. There's a special situation because of the army situation, but we also have young players which want to be part of the team in 2028. They know all that Los Angeles is an attractive theme, so they work for this aim.
So I guess what I was getting at is that, and I look at both Ty and Drew Donlin as almost like sort of test cases to see how this program will work. If an American coming abroad, how did you go through? You looked at Ty as a player and you said, how did you decide what clubs would be a good fit for him, and how did that communication with the clubs, and how was it coordinated with the FCH for support to make that happen?
For example, let's take the goalies. We know that the best goalie school in Europe in handball is the North European, the Scandinavian situation. So we tried to get Rennie Ingram, also a young player, goalie, to give him an education in a Scandinavian club. So he's worked for Kristianstad. The same with Nico Robinson, starting this season in Elverum in Norway. So we try to see what kind of player we have. Is he talented? Has he the right age, right position? And where can we get him? Which club is attractive? We have some leagues with different types of physical. Let's not say Spanish league. The first Spanish league. It's not the same situation as in Germany. They don't play. They have not the same speed, the physical strength, because in Germany you gain more money in the white. So we the top players playing in in Germany, because it's most attractive for them. So the level, the sport level is very high in Germany. We have some players who could play in Swiss, because we know, okay, the first Swiss league, for example, is similar to the second German league, but it's a good league, and so they could play there. Stefan Bögel, as the official FCH transfer agent, knows the market very well, and if Robert, who does the athletic rating, if we sit together and we say, okay, we can put which player is interesting for us in 4 years, in 6 years, in 2028, and so on. So it's a system where we try to build up the team for the next years.
Yeah, so you have to look at, I guess what you're saying is you have to look at each player and their age, their athletic skill set. And then the example that you gave was with the goalkeepers. Both great goalkeepers for their age, playing at lower levels in Germany. And the decision with them was like, where can they learn the most? And the idea was, hey, the Scandinavians, they really know how to train goalkeepers. Let's get these guys to the, top club in Sweden and top club in Norway, respectively. And then I think what you're alluding to is, maybe there's an opportunity with the league in Switzerland or the league in Spain, and it's kind of a case-by-case basis. And then I guess it's also working with the agent, working with the clubs, and what their needs are, and who they can accommodate and would be a good fit for them.
Yeah, that's right. We are a team beside the handball team. We are an organizing team where everyone has his role and tries to do his best for this single player. And that's a very responsible task, because you can't send Nico Robinson to Elverum and say, bye-bye, Nico, see you. But you have to stay in contact. We have a WhatsApp group where all the players are in who live or working in foreign countries. So we get always the feedback, how they feel, and they can communicate. That's very important also. But we try to copy a system which, for example, Chile and Brazil did a few years ago. They sent Cuba also. They send a lot of players to Spain. Cuba and Spain, same language. So they got a very good motivation for their national team, and they became better. The same with Chile or Argentina or Brazil. That's the way how it can work if you live in a part of the world where handball is not so attractive compared to other sports in America, baseball, football, and basketball, or in South America, it's always soccer. So we have to send interesting, talented players to the area where handball plays a great role, and that's Europe. It doesn't matter where it's Spain, Germany, or France, or also Croatia or Hungary.
What type of support does the Forum Club Handball provide? Is it just I'm assuming part of it is just the connections and the ability to go talk to the clubs, but is there a financial component too that the FCH kicks in?
That's right. The FCH supports by money this program to develop American players. FCH consists of 80 leading clubs in Europe, and also Israel and Russia, and they are interested in this maybe new handball market, America, USA. And 2028, we know Los Angeles, a lot of IOC sponsors are American firms, and they should know which sport handball is. It might be a problem for handball if the sponsors say, okay, we don't know handball, we know lacrosse. Why don't we play lacrosse at the Olympic Games? So it's a difficult situation sometimes. But handball plays a fantastic role after soccer. It's sport number 2 in Europe, and therefore we have to improve the handball situation for USA.
Yeah. So some financial support
Yeah.
goes from the FCH to the club itself. Like for instance, Kristianstad. There's some level of payment coming from the FCH to facilitate adding Renee Ingram as a player, but then, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but then, Kristianstad sets up a contract with Renee Ingram, and that's with him and the player. But there's some money coming from the FCH that helps to facilitate that and make it financially easier for Kristianstad to take on a up and coming player who has potential.
No.
It helps facilitate that.
It's a combination of all facts. The European clubs want to support the American handball because of this interesting market. That's one reason. Second reason is by this financial support, the clubs can educate a player which might be interesting for them after 2 years. That's the maximum duration of this promotion program. So every player can stay for 2 years maximum in the system, but there's an evaluation after 1 year. So if a club says, okay, Renee Ingram, that's the case, developed very well, we keep him for 1 more year. And in 2021, they can decide whether they want to keep him. Then they have to pay all without support by FCH, or Renee Ingram had such a good standing that he can get an under contract in another club in Germany or where else. Yeah. So that's a system that every player gets a good education at a professional club. And you said there are some players playing here in the 3rd or 4th league, nearly like amateurs, and they get a very big chance. It's like a win in the lottery, I don't know. So Renee Ingram never would never got the chance to go to Kristianstad, or to Nico Robbins. They were 3rd or 4th league players, but they have talent. They are Americans, and we want to educate them, and that's the system.
It's kind of both those guys, solid goalkeepers. I mean, with potential, but the FCH gives them like a hand up, a little extra help to get them with such a good training environment where maybe they would have gotten to that level anyway, but it's something that would have taken more time, taken a little bit more exposure before they would get that. So it's like a little boost, a little assist. Is that a good way to describe it?
It's a boost. It's really a boost. And we all know that not only talent is very important for your career, that also luck and to be in the right position in the right time. And that's for those guys. Yeah.
The right training, the right coach. I mean, who knows what type of, players that never got that opportunity to have a really good coach, get them that a little bit much better to get a better look with another pro team at a younger age. Hard work and determination will get you there maybe eventually, but maybe it'll get you there 3 or 4 years later than it would have had.
As professional sport, for example, we had a juniors tournament in Menden, Sauerland, here in Germany in January. There was a player, Thomas Moravsky. He's 2'2" tall. He's 15 years old, and his father was a former professional Polish handball.
Yeah. Well, let me stop you just there. I think because I was just communicating with someone else about him. I think, is it Tomas or Tristan?
No, Tomas Moravsky, I think. Tristan, you're right. Tomas
I think, and when I heard, oh yeah, he's 15 years old, he's 6'7", and he's left-handed. Right. I'm like going, oh my God.
That's right. Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
and his dad played professional handball, and he's an American. Oh,
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
I'm sold on him, and I've never seen him play.
No, that's because he lived in Germany, not in America. He has an American passport. These are guys who are Americans, and they have a German passport or Polish passport. They live here, and we got the contact, indeed, by Rene Ingram, because they know the family Moravsky from South Germany. And they told him, oh, take him for a tournament. He came to this tournament in January. We saw his physical possibilities. We talked to him. We arranged a tryout at Flensburg, and he will play in Flensburg next year too. He will live in the academy, and we will get fantastic education for a few years. And that's a player for the future, not for the next 2 or 3 years. But it might be a player 2028, 30, 24, or 23. So that's the system, how it can work. But
six seven right back. Well,
yeah,
be 18. I could see him. I could see him playing at the 2023 Pan Am Games. I haven't even seen him play. But if he's
take care. It's a long way. It's a long way from a young player to a good professional adult player. But he can influence it by its own will and own energy, and we will see.
He is being given the opportunity to develop as a player, to go to Flensburg's academy, and that'll be a professional training environment at age 15. Wow. I mean, honestly, the U.S. has never had a player like that.
Yeah, we will see.
Well, with that kind of opportunity, I mean, and it's hard to say. Who knows how it will turn out? But I think the key is he's being put in a position where it could really pan out to great things. I mean, he would still learn as a player, working with his local club, and he would still develop. But he's given an extra push now to really take off as a player.
You said it. It's a boost. It's a boost for the players.
Yeah.
And for example, again, this tournament in January in Menden, it's a little small village here. Luke Bolte came here on its own costs. He flew to Düsseldorf. I picked him up. I've never seen.
So let me interject there. So Luke Bolt, he plays circle runner for Ohio State. He's been playing handball. Well, he played part of a season. That's all he's played. And this might be a good transition. I'll let you chat about him a little bit, but I'll have some questions after you give me your initial perspective of him as a player.
I saw him in January 1st when I picked him up, and I drove him to the tournament, and we spoke a little bit. He said, "Oh, I'm the first time in Germany. I played basketball." I say, "Okay, you play basketball, and although you play handball now?" I said, "A few weeks." I saw. So the same evening, we had a national match against Luxembourg, and there were 800 spectators in the gym. And he heard the national hymn, the American national hymn, in front of 800 people. It was the first match ever for the national team, for a team outside America, and he played 50 minutes, and he played well. So that's also a talent which will get supported by this program. Corona stopped it a little bit. We have all the same problems since March, but he will be a member of this program too.
Okay.
The next thing.
So, and this is where I think the challenge of stateside players versus Americans that are growing up overseas, learning the game in a traditional European sense. And it's a different situation. And I love what this program is doing for guys like Rene Ingram and Nico Robinson, and now Tristan Moravsky. But the reality is there's only so many Americans growing up in Europe in that situation. If we're ever going to, this is my opinion now, probably a lot of people's opinion, if we're ever going to develop as a handball nation, we're going to have to get a lot more of our players stateside. Guys like Luke Bolt and maybe some other guys. But one of the challenges that I've always seen for players coming stateside to Europe is finding the right club environment. And the problem is you might have some great athletic talents, but they haven't been playing the sport very long. And somebody would want to go over to Europe and play with a club, but there's a lot of difference between the second team at Flensburg or the Flensburg Academy and just your typical run-of-the-mill fourth division Oberliga or lower club. And I guess what I'm getting at is you would have guys that would want to go overseas and play handball, but they're just not good enough yet to play with a top program. And they want to play, and they're playing with a lower level club that might just practice once or twice a week and play one competitive game on the weekend. It's better handball than what they were playing in the U.S., but it's not the type of training environment that's going to, daily training environment that's going to get them better as a player. So I see that as an issue. I don't know if I've even seen Luke Bolt play at all. He's got a steep learning curve. What level can he go at, and what kind of training environment that that's going to work for him? How do you solve that problem?
We can't solve this problem in the short term in America itself, because we don't have a structured league or professional system compared to Europe. But in Europe, a player like him would be part of a good youth team, yes, but we have in Europe maybe a few thousand Luke Bolties. He's talent, but talent is only one fact. It's the same situation as I said, say, we have a good basketball player in Germany. You say, we have 50,000 good basketball players, same level. So, but he has an American passport. He's an American, so he has a big pro to get a club to be supported and to get a stronger boost than a German player or a Scandinavian player or a Spanish or a French player, and that the system how it can work when we pick up single players who have an American passport living all over the world. That's only one system in Europe, but we have always to install. We have to install in long term the system in USA itself. We have a system with the nationals, and Robert had the responsibility to be there once a year to see the guys who are playing there, to make this athletic rating for players, and then we say, okay, these 3 players, male or female, are worth being promoted in a system like the FCH program. So it can work, but better was if we have a system in America, a structure, a youth structure, a league structure, but we don't have. As long as we don't have a structure in America, we have to go there where it exists, and that's Europe. And so players from the 3rd or 4th division, which are young enough to learn a lot, they get the chance to train in a professional club.
But well, let's just take an example of a guy like Luke Bolt, good athletic skills, but minimal handball background. Is someone, what level would he go at? I'm wondering, like Flensburg's second team. I doubt if he has enough handball background to fit in that training environment. So where do we send it? Where do we send a gifted American athlete that's but his handball skills are just so level. What level and where would you send a player like that?
Like Luke Bolte.
Sure.
He will have a lot of problems if he was in an academy in Flensburg. You must imagine the academy of a first division club in Germany. They're only the best youth players. They may play in the fourth league or third league, but they're 18 years old or 19. They play against 28-year-old guys. That's a big difference in handball. If you're 10 years older, you don't have a chance against a physical stronger opponent. That's normal. But they get a good technical, a good defense education. For example, Ty Reid has problems in his defense attitude compared to a higher level. So he has to work on this special situation. And Drew Donlin has to work in special situations where he's standing at a pivot and so there as more professional system becomes, the more detail you work with the guys. And after a process of 2, 3, 4 years maximum, Tristan will stay in Flensburg, I think, longer than 2 years because he's very young. They have a good level. They reached a good level, and then they can go the next step.
Well, I'll just ask. It doesn't really answer the question of where do we send somebody who's a really gifted athlete without that skill level. If we can't send them to a place like Flensburg Academy, where do we send them? Or, do we have a place in the U.S. or even it could be in Europe where that gifted athlete gets a lot of hands-on, dedicated training to try and get them up to a level where they can join a European club in a professional training environment?
In my opinion, it's impossible to get the skills in America to be successful in the European market. It won't work because it's not only a training. It's your teammates. You must have enough teammates on the same level. You must have a good coach. You must have the facilities. You have to build up a league. You have to be in a contest every week, 1 or 2 times. So that's all the surroundings which must fit. And that's not the situation. It's not yet organized in America. And so players who are interested, I heard by some guy, Ty Reid, for example, he threw the ball against the wall 500 times a day because he had no team training. And that's because USA is a great country. They have no clubs. The distances between the clubs are a lot. Los Angeles, New York, and so on. You know it better than me. So they have to go the step to another system.
So giving a little bit of historical background with handball in the U.S. We took a lot of good athletes. Many cases really had a good European coach, and we set up a residency program, and trained them in handball basically full time. Practicing every day, trips to Europe to play against different levels of club teams and national teams. It was a relatively expensive setup to do that. But back in the day, before handball got more professionalized, and we had a lot of really good athletes, not me. I'm a little bit lower, but I was practice fodder for some guys. But we got them to a level of handball skill where we were competitive with European teams. You look at our '84 Olympic team. They only lost by 2 goals to Germany, who got the silver medal. And I realized it was a different time, which is part of the reason why I'm a little bit skeptical of trying to recreate that same sort of program. But I guess even if we were able to get our club level up to a better level, I guess what I'm saying is kind of like a boot camp, if you will, to take some guys like Luke Bolt, and we have some other guys. I look at Aaron Hamm and William Kennedy. They have some skills. They played on the junior national team. Maybe not as good as some of the European-based players, but they haven't been playing as long either. But I see a gap where maybe they just don't have the skill to go directly into a top club. I'm just trying to say, how do I bridge that gap?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
Well, yeah. Well, one more idea was if we find interesting players, male or female, in the tryouts in America, and we say, okay, we speak to the players and we say, could you think about going to Germany, to France, to Spain, anywhere? And this player says, okay, I spoke with my family. Sometimes these guys are young, 7 or 18 years now. It has to be organized very well. I can understand this. I'm father myself, so I wouldn't send my son to America without real structure. But the next step would be that those players get a basic education for example, 3 or 4 weeks in July, where mostly the European teams are off, by Robert or by another good coach to give them the basics to minimize the gap between this and the other system. But John, as you said, if I wasn't convinced that there are a lot of potential in America for handball sport, I would not do this.
Yeah.
So I'm very impressed by the spirit and also by the physical attitude and by the mentality. And I think handball should be or must be a very, very good, it suits to America, the philosophy I have from America. And it's a fast, hard, and attractive sport, but it must be developed. I know a lot of guys tried it to develop handball. Fantastic. Maybe we don't have success too, but we will try it, and we'll give our best, but it's not all to only give your best. You mentioned 1984. I was a player from 1983 to 1995. And if I compare the system, the handball system from that time to today, it's totally different. You cannot compare it. It's only full professional system and players. They practice 2 times a day under other circumstances. They gain more money and so on. And that's one point. You cannot compare this situation, this actual situation, world-class handball, to the situation in 1984. It will never happen again that a top European national team like Norway, like Denmark, like Germany or France can lose against, or it's against another team from an area where handball is not as effective, because it's a very professional. It became a very, very professional sport in Europe.
I'll go on a little bit of a tangent because this is something that I've heard before, and I follow rugby. The same sort of thing happened in rugby, and I've heard some people talk about how they became officially professionalized. There were people that were getting paid, but at one point they said, we're not going to pretend anymore. This is going to be a professional sport. People are going to get paid full time to do this. And U.S. teams that were kind of competitive in the past, all of a sudden, they were just getting annihilated because the situation with the European teams changed dramatically. When did that happen for handball? I mean, did that happen? I mean, I played on the 93 national team that went to the World Championships, and we played against, Stefan Olsen and Magnus Wieslander and stuff like that. Those were pretty good players.
Yeah.
They were professional. They were getting paid. What happened from the 1980s to 2020? Was it a gradual shift in professionalism, or was it like boom, boom? Can you elaborate on that a bit? And when did that happen?
The system in Europe changed in 1989 because the war broke down between East and West German. And I joined the last German handball final between Frankfurt Oder and Düsseldorf. It was very interesting because the military sat on the back. It was fine. It was two systems: the capitalism and the socialism system in Germany. And when the wall fell down, the system, also the sports system in Europe changed. We got the European Union, and a lot of players from Hungary and from Poland and from Romania and so on, they came into the European community and they say, okay, we want to play handball there where we can gain money. So the national handball situation in Germany especially grew up, especially. There was the Bosman judge. Bosman was a football player from Belgium.
Yes, yeah.
At that time, it was not allowed to have more than 2 or 3 foreign players in the team. And he was a Belgian player, and he was player number 4 in football, in the soccer club. And he said, I want to play. I'm a European citizen. You cannot deny to play in the club. And he won. And that was a benchmark, because after that, every club in Europe could have as many players from Denmark or Sweden or as they want. For example, Flensburg, traditionally, they have a lot of Danish players. Traditionally, Kiel has had a lot of players from Sweden, as you mentioned before, and so on. So the level, the sport level in the German league, and also in Spain developed, and in France and in Balkan, Hungary, it grew up enormously in 10 years, and also the salaries.
Yeah, well, were players getting paid before, and what was the jump in salaries in terms of percentage or times?
Most of the players from East Europe, they didn't get money before the war fell down, because they were normally they were soldiers in the army and played handball. And so now they could walk from Budapest or from Warsaw to Flensburg and to gain money, and they could play handball. And a lot of Western managers went to East European parts and they bought the best players. Also happened in soccer. A lot of soccer players came from the East European market in the West European market, and so the level grew up. We have now in football, it's the East European clubs don't play a role in the international football. Italy, Spanish, and Paris Saint-Germain,
Sure.
Paris, and France and Germany. But in handball, we have some clubs in the East European situation. So we have a very diversified.
Well, I guess what I'm missing is like in the 80s, were players in the German Bundesliga, were they full-time professionals?
No, only a few. Only a few.
Only a few.
Only a few. Yeah. Most of I once a day training. So sometimes on Sunday after match, jogging walk, but that was all. We had we had in a year we had, I think, about 200 or 220 sessions a year, training sessions. And the Russian player who worked in the army, they had 350. That's a huge difference. Yeah. So they were the best national team in the world, the Russian national team at that time. And then
when did the German Bundesliga switch from maybe just a handful of full-time professionals to virtually everybody getting?
Yeah, it changed after Bosman judge. There was 1994, 1995 at this time. When I finished, it started up, and a few teammates said, we should have played handball later. We could have gained more money. I said, yeah, you're right. But you won't. Then you had no job. You had no business education. All my teammates, they have good jobs, and they can live without playing handball.
Yeah. And see, this goes back to a theory I've had, because I'm an older guy, but there's guys older than me.
Me too. So.
And they they're like the guys from the '84 Olympic team. They talk about how much greater they were, and how they, took Germany, down to the wire. And I think overall they did have some more talented athletes, but the point that I've tried to explain is, even though they weren't professional basketball players, they had played basketball at the highest level in college. And those were professional environments, and maybe more professional than some of the handball players were getting in the Bundesliga. Even though it wasn't their main sport, in some ways they had an advantage of really being on the big stage in their original sport. And what I've tried to explain is that handball has just grown so much in Europe that we can't do a solution like that anymore and be successful. This is my opinion, and I think what you explained to me a little bit is just how that happened in many respects.
I have a lot of respect for everyone who took part in Olympic Games and who played good games. And even if they lost by 2, that's a big success in 1984. And you had your success in 1993 or 4.
Yeah, we got clobbered by everybody. We didn't have that much success.
Yeah, we had our biggest success in 1989 when we won the European Cup. But that was 1989 and 1984 or 1993. Now we have 2020 and we work on 2028 in Los Angeles. So we have to introduce, we have to improve the system, we have to adjust the system.
Yeah. What age group then, let's say that what age level are you guys targeting then, if you wanted to take a talented American over?
I can say now, as young as they are, as the younger they are, the better it is. Yeah. But it's not realistic. So if we get a player when he's 15, 16, 17, and he has talent and he has good skills, is good, and mostly sports plays a big role in school system in America. They are all physically very well educated, and we have a lot of players. There are 380 million people living in America, so it's nearly the same size as in Europe from people. So we will have enough talents, but we have to find them. We have to search them. We have to find them. We have to develop them, we have to put them in a system, and we have to wait a few years. But it must be a permanent work for a few years. Not this way, but this way.
And so, see, the challenge with that is, there's a couple of break points, if you will, as to when athletes become available. And right. I think our very best athletes, we're never going to get them, because they're going to play professional basketball, football, or whatever. But there's a lot of college athletes. Tyree's an example, who at age 22, when their collegiate career is done, they could be enticed to take up handball. The problem then is, that's a little bit older, tougher to bring in to that European situation, I guess. So that's one break point. Then there's, I think there's another break point after athletes graduate from high school. There's athletes that, aren't going to be the top level college for whatever reason. And that's the focus now of developing a good collegiate system. And you'll get athletes like Drew Donlin, who grew like 4 or 5 inches in college, and became, more of a handball interesting product. I look at a guy like Aaron Hamm. He's a center back for North Carolina. I mean, the first time I saw him play as a freshman at the college nationals, I said, hey, this guy's pretty good, and I found out, wow, he's only been playing for a few months. So we don't have, thousands of those type players, but we have some of those type players. But there's two break points. You know, there's a group of talented athletes that would come at 22, brand new to the sport. And then there's a group of athletes that will come at age 18 or 19, brand new to the sport, but they'll have three or 4 years of college. Luke Bolt, that will come in there. And I guess that's the challenge of bringing those type of athletes into a European club situation.
That's right. That's right. I won't say that's impossible to educate also a 22-year-old guy, but it's much more. It's easier to develop a 16 and 17 years old guy. You know, if you have special movements, you have to change. It's easier when you are 16 and you try to find out and to improve this move than with 22 or 23.
Well,
there are some players like Tyree, okay, they are very talented. And if he had gone with 16 or 15 to Europe to stay there, he might be a better player than he is now. I don't know. But he played football. I can understand. Most young guys and with 16, 17, 18, which are very talented, they see the big money and the parents say, okay, you must play football, you must play basketball, handball. What's handball? It's the same as if my father would have said to me, hey, you must play baseball. I said, baseball? Well, baseball in Germany? There's no one playing baseball in Europe. Yeah? So I played handball because I wanted to play handball because it was my favorite sport. So we must try to make handball more attractive.
Yeah. Let's talk briefly about the challenges with different court positions, playing positions. For instance, goalkeeper. And how would an American product coming in at age 22, maybe he was a goalkeeper in water polo or a soccer goalkeeper or lacrosse, how would you bring that sort of, is this FCH program bringing players in? Is that anything feasible at all for a goalkeeper?
No.
Okay. And that's why when I found out that we had.
If you have physical attitudes, you are 2 meters 5 tall, you are very flexible, you have talent, but then you're not a water polo. I don't know. One has to see. It's very difficult to generalize it, to say in common all. It's impossible. It is possible, but it's difficult. It's very difficult to influence a player who's 22. And if you want to reach a high level, a professional level, you have to start very early. Normally, now I started playing handball when I was 11. I had a Romanian teacher, school teacher, sport teacher. But most young people start playing handball with 6 or 7 years in Germany. You know,
yeah, I just look at the challenges of goalkeeper, and I don't even know how we did it before. We had some solid goalkeepers, but it was really challenging to bring someone along at an older age. And I look at this talent and the experience level today, and I'm like going, wow, if I had to pick any position where I've got some good dual citizens playing goalkeeper,
never goalkeeper.
That's the one I would pick. Goalkeeper and right back.
Right back is okay, but not pivot. That's fucking.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. In terms of having somebody that you can come in from a dual citizen standpoint with that skill set, as opposed to trying to create a stateside top-notch goalkeeper. Really tough to do, I guess is what.
Really, the easiest position indeed is the pivot. That's you know, he has to know where he's standing, where he blocks, and defense what he has to do. 3, 4, 5, 6 situations. You can work with it. That's the reason also why Drew Donlin does a fantastic development now. His skills are getting better and better. You won't recognize him. We will see him next month again, I know, and he proved after 3 months. I saw him in January or February. We were in Sweden for training camp. We went there, and it was really impressive. He's physically stronger than he was before. He was even before very strong, but now he's stronger, and he's very self-confident.
You won't have to argue with me. Circle runner is the easiest position to learn. That's probably why they stuck me there.
Less difficult. Let's say less difficult.
Many people tried to convert me to backcourt. Many people failed. However, if I was left-handed, I think people would still be trying to convert me into a backcourt player.
Yeah, we have. Unfortunately, we have a lot of left-hander now in our national team, in our group, and for future we have Max Binderius also on right wing play. We have some other Swedish guys. Yeah. So our position, we're looking for some more players, left wing, left back. These are the situations or positions we are looking for. Some players. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it. It's much tougher to bring along a stateside American to learn all the intricacies of backcourt. I think circle runner is a bit easier. I also think, you can correct me, do you think wing is a position that we can bring a newcomer in?
Yeah, wing is easier, I would say. Wing is not so difficult. It's easier to learn than, I said that all matches and tournaments will win or lost in back, on left back, center, and right back. On these three positions, in combination with the defense and goalie. But the left and right wing players, all the people, they know what to do, and they need a good score situation, and that's all.
Well, we've been talking for an hour. Maybe we should wrap up. Okay. I do have one question, and I think one player that I saw, if that we had an FCH program in place sooner, how would you have seen Gary Hines' progression as a player if we had the FCH program when he was like 18 or 19? Where do you think he would be playing, and what position do you think he would be playing?
He would be a rounder on all back positions. He's, for a typical left back player, he's too small with 1.84 or 83, I don't know exactly. But he has a fantastic physical body, and so he can play everywhere we put him. It's a very valuable player. You can put him on left wing, left back, center, right back. He on every position you can win a match with him. That's a big. That's very important. It's all rounder, real rounder. If he went to handball system with 60, I think he could have been a really professional player. I don't know if it works. A lot of other circumstances are important for that, but I would say yes. Now he's 36. He's on the swell from the player Gary Hines to maybe coach. So we are always also working on his situations, because he's a very, very important player now, actual player for the actual national team, and so we need him. But on the other side, he must think about what he's doing in his future. Yeah. How does he want to live? What alternatives here?
Do you think he could have been a first division Bundesliga left wing with the right progression, the sort of progression that you're setting up now?
20 years ago, when I played handball, I think, yeah. But no, I'm not sure, because handball developed extremely what the physics concerns, and so he might be a little bit too small for left wing play. Maybe a center player or left wing. If I would say could be a good left wing player.
Yeah.
Because he's very fast and he has a good jump, and so maybe. But that's theoretically. I can't tell you. So
you mentioned coaching. Is Mark Ortega in his role with the Dutch club, is that tied in with
Poland,
the FCH program?
Yeah, he's also, because we want also develop coaches which could coach other coaches in America or in Europe national teams. And so Mark Ortega got in this FCH program as a professional coach now in Volendam, in Dutch, near Amsterdam. And
that's
and we tried to get also Gary Hines maybe in 1 or 2 years or next year in the system. So we work on all guys. We know all guys who are very who did a lot for American handball also. You know, Gary Hines is now playing. He's the face of our team, and or one of the faces of our team.
Sure.
And he's very professional. And
are there any other players? Are there any other players that you are looking at to put into the FCH program?
We have some players who are already playing in the first or second division, like Ian Hüter. Ian Hüter is the head of our team. He's a center player, and he's a really good guy. And he's a very intelligent player. He's physically very strong. He can also play on left wing, right back, on all positions in the back and on the wing. And I think he will be our head also in the next years. He's now 23, and when we play 2028 Los Angeles, he's 31. It's the best age for a handball player because he has experience, and she's now playing in Dortmund, in the second German division.
Right.
But I could imagine that he can change next year.
Maybe to a first division club.
Yeah, to a professional club anywhere in Europe, because he's not. He has a contract now. This contract is still till next year in June, and he's a serious guy, and he's a very honest, good guy, and he wants to fulfill his contract. And after that, we will see what happens.
So he could definitely move into the FCH program, maybe get one of those top clubs to take a look at him. And no argument with me. He's the linchpin of our team right now. Anybody who knows just a little bit of handball knows immediately how he changed things. What about Abu Fofana?
Abu is a special type. I really like him, and he has a big talent. You know, left back player, a good shot, and I really like him. Yeah. He must become a little more professional in his behavior, but he's on a good way, and he did a good development. For now, 1.5 years, I could watch him for 1.5 years now, and they are all you find in sport every time you find.
Well, you know, he moved.
You find types like Ian Hüter, and you find types like Abu Fofana. Totally different from type, but everyone finds his way at one point. You know, Abu maybe 1 year later or 1 or 2. It's a way to live also, but he's a fantastic jump and good shot, and but he can do more from his talent. Yeah, sure. I would say he's not at the end.
And he moved to a new club on Angers, so I think that will be interesting to see how that works for him in a new environment, maybe new responsibilities. At least that's what I'm hoping. Yeah. And then off to the side, I hear names floated around that haven't really joined the U.S. program, but they've got some skills. I've seen Junior Scott play. Any hopes of him joining the U.S. team anytime soon?
Players who play in the first German division can always help our team. Okay. That's Alfred Jönsson in Hanover.
Yes, that was the next.
Is an extraordinary player, but those players, they have also a French or Jönsson a Swedish passport,
right?
And maybe they are more. Maybe I don't know. They are more interested playing for Sweden or France. I don't know what kind of interest there are. So these interests are individual. We work on it. They both did not play one match for France or for Sweden. So we'll see.
Anybody else out there that has a secret American passport that we can add?
No, it's Americans with having European passport. That's the right direction. Not Europeans with an American passport. You know, that's very important because we have as many only Americans as we have Americans with a European passport. You know, Drew, Tyree, Mark Ortega, they don't have a European passport. So we try to also to we are very interested in support only American players by tryouts in America to get a rating by the head coach, and if he says, okay, this player is interesting for me, for my idea, then we will support those players.
Well, Andreas, I could chat about every single player in our talent pool, but we've talked long enough. I really appreciate your filling in me about the professionalization of handball in the 90s, the FCH program, and your role with the U.S. team. I really appreciate what you're doing in basically a volunteer capacity. I think that's a really good deal for the U.S.
Thank you very much, Tom.
All right. So, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook. For Andreas Hertelt, this is John Ryan, and thanks for listening.